Hey, thank you for coming to my show. I think you'll hear something today that makes you click that like button, share with your people, and subscribe so you don't miss what's next. Let's stay connected. Tell me what you think in the comments. I'm Lionel Gentle here at Our Unseen Roots. Thank you for joining us. Today we have Enjoli Daley with us. Hello, Enjoli. How are you?
Hey, how are you? I'm well.
I'm fine, thank you. I'm
And you
fine.
said my name perfectly.
Oh, that great. Do a
Nobody
lot of
ever
people
gets it
miss that.
right. So no, they mess it up all the
Ah,
time. So thank you for that.
you're very welcome. You're very welcome. So the way I like to start my podcast is my first question. Who are you?
That's a big question. I'm Enjoli Daley, obviously. I'm a lot of things. I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a child of God, I'm a praying woman, I'm a sister, I'm an aunt, I'm a police officer, I'm a lot of stuff. It's always hard to kind of figure that out because I think so much of who we are is ever evolving and changing and growing. And it's kind of cool. So I wear a lot of hats, but all in all, I'm just me.
Just me. That makes sense. What challenges have you faced as a woman working to nourish the Black community?
Um, the struggle is real. I think when you stand up, when you speak up, when you try to pour into, everyone isn't always on board with that.
Mhm.
And as a Black woman, I think oftentimes we're quick to get the labels, we're quick to get shut down. Um, but I also believe it's my job, it's my role, it's my gift to pour into people, to my community, to pour into my family, to pour into my folks. Um, Everyone doesn't always understand it. There's been times when I've spoken up and I was shunned, not talked to, or things were made up. But the fortitude that it takes to keep going is necessary. And so I think for Black women, and well, at least to speak for myself, one of the challenges is keeping that energy, maintaining that energy. It can be really difficult when it feels like things are stacked against you to try to keep going and keep showing up in a way that you need to. A lot of people don't show up. And it's like, okay, well, I could just go sit down and mind my own business and not be bothered. But is that really beneficial to anybody? So it's really kind of maintaining that stamina for me is one of the major challenges, and being able to lick your wounds and heal yourself when the world isn't willing to heal you for you.
Yeah, yeah. How do you prioritize self-care while supporting others in the community?
So that's actually a really good question. Maybe about a year and a half ago, I really started to understand the importance of self-care. I was doing a lot of different things. I was active in my sorority. I was active at work. I was active with my kids, just everywhere. I'm bored, just doing all the things. And my mom would tell me, like, okay, you need to rest. Okay, you need to take care of yourself. I would hear from so many people that cared about me. And I'm like, I got this, I got this, I got this. And then about a year and a half ago, it was like, oh, wait a minute. I'm tired. I ain't got this. I ain't got this. Uh, I need a nap. And so I really just kind of started to make room and make space. I had a cousin really like try to tell me, she's like, you need to meditate, like just try meditating. And I'm like, oh, okay, whatever, I'll try it. And I did. And it has stuck. And it is now a part of my life. And without it, I can't do the things that I'm trying to do in the world without taking that time to say, okay, let me do my little routine, let me do my little yoga, my little meditation, whatever it is. That is what gives me the energy and the strength to keep going. And and I'm getting older, and it's like you can't keep going at the same pace forever and ever and ever. And so self-care is huge for me, huge. Like I will take a day off of work to go to sleep sometimes just so I can rest.
Yeah.
I call them sleep days. Like I need a sleep day. Let me get this little girl, my daughter off to school, get her on the bus or whatever. My husband will leave the house and I'm going to sleep.
Yeah, that's it's funny. Your cohort, Tasha Wilson, said the same thing. I'm a sleepyhead.
Oh yeah, Tasha gets some good sleep. That's who I aspire to be. I want some of that Tasha sleep.
As a Black woman, what is your superpower?
Whew. Um, Sometimes I almost think being a Black woman is the superpower. Um, but there's a lot. But personally, for me, I think it's my creativity. I'm kind of a creative thinker, and I think that allows me to have just a soft heart, but also be strategic and creative in thought and how I do things or try to do things. I can kind of see a lot of different angles. I had a pretty interesting life growing up and a lot of different experiences, and holding on to that creative piece, holding on to my light, I think has helped give me an advantage to be able to look at things from multiple angles and connect and understand and kind of piece things together in a way that maybe others can't. Um, I hold on to that creative part, that light part. I think it's really, really necessary for my personal existence.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. What strategies do you use to empower other women within the Black community?
Man, I'm huge on complimenting, lifting up, giving props, putting names in places, connecting people. It is nothing to me. It is second nature to me. Girl, you look good. Man, that's
Mhm.
nice. You did a great job on that. It's necessary. There's so many forces sometimes that are trying to tell us we are less than. I grew up hearing from someone who was not Black that I had two strikes against me, that I was Black and I was a woman. And for a long time, and it wasn't said in a way to motivate me, it was said in a way to compartmentalize me and almost make me feel small. And for a long time, it did.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until I got older, I'm like, hold up, these ain't no strikes, these are gifts. Like,
Yeah.
being a Black woman is a gift. And so when I see other Black women out here doing their thing, whatever it may be, whatever it may look like, it ain't nothing for me to pour in the way we need to be poured into. Um, I've been I've been on a rust with people, and I had a woman sing to me. She had just been arrested for something, and we were doing the paperwork, and she sang us. Her voice was so beautiful. And I'm like, you have a gorgeous voice. Like, you have an amazing voice. Like, you need to do something with that. And I mean, just the smile, you could see like people hadn't been pouring into her. And it's like, if someone just took the time to like hype her up, hype her up, like, so that maybe she can make different choices. Maybe she needs that push. So that's how I nourish. I show up for my friends. I show up for my family in the best way that I can. And anything that I can do to help support them, I'm gonna do it. If your slip is showing, I'm gonna let you know your slip is showing. Your bra strap showing. Let me fix your crown. Come on now, let's go. You got this. Get out there. So yeah, I pour in as much as I can.
Yeah, it's interesting. People don't realize the more you pour in, the more you receive, on your end. Because my grandmother always taught me you've got to give to receive, and it's one of the hardest things to do is to give. But people that give always find their cup full, even
Yeah.
though they're giving, it's a beautiful thing that I don't
Hmm.
think people realize, you know. What role do education and mentorship play in your approach to community nourishment?
Um, I mean, education is huge. The more you know, the better you can do. And I think sometimes we think of education in like the traditional sense, school and degrees and all, but there's so much information and there's so much education. And I have a little girl. I mean, I have three children, but my youngest is 5. And when she showed up in the world, I'm like, man, I got to teach her. I have to, in order for her to grow up in this space and be proud of who she is, it's about having those conversations. I used to do some programming with mentoring younger girls in one of the schools. And it's just talking, it's teaching, it's sharing your knowledge. Education isn't necessarily like books and lectures. It's a sharing of information. It's a sharing of experiences. It's a sharing of knowledge. And when people have knowledge, they can just do better. And the goal should be for everybody to do better. Like, we should be kind of all working towards a common goal here in life. So it's huge. It's huge.
How do you define nourishment within the context of the Black community?
I mean, I think we nourish our souls in so many different ways, whether it's music, food, connection, swag, like fashion, there's just so much that goes into how we nourish ourselves, and it looks different, right? There is no one, like the style, just we have so many different ways. For me, I think this country historically has not been kind to us and has done more to take away than strengthen. And so I think that nourishment really just comes from us connecting with each other, pouring into each other, and just showing up in spaces and places and giving each other props. It just imagine how you feel when somebody's like, man, Lionel, that's dope. I love your podcast. Like that nourishes you, that pushes you. And so just simple, kind words are enough to make somebody be willing to go the next extra step. So it really is a simple concept. I don't know why we struggle with it so much in life.
You know, that's very true, because it's one of those things where I remember, quick story, I remember when I was studying theater in New York, and you know how they have have you ever been to New York?
Yes.
Taking the subway?
Yes.
And some of those long escalators that seem like they go for like 3 stories. And I remember I was on my way up, and this woman had a baby in a stroller, and she had an infant that she had to carry as well, you know, hold their hand. And she was struggling. And I watched her, and I watched people just walk by. And as I got to the top of the stairs, I was like, you know what? I got time. Let me help her. And I grabbed the stroller and, you know, walked her downstairs. Somebody behind me waited for me to come back upstairs just to ask me, why did I help that woman? And I said, well, wasn't it obvious she needed help?
Yeah.
That's why I helped her. And he thought,
simple.
I just wanted to ask you. That's odd, but I guess this is New York. You know what I mean? It was hilarious to me in a strange way, right? Because I have a funny sense of humor, but it was like, wow, that's deep. You waited, instead of you trying to help her too, you waited to ask me why I helped her.
To ask you.
Right.
Wild.
It was crazy, but you know, how do you address systemic issues and promote systemic change within the Black community?
Oh, that's a big question, man. You coming hard. I did not eat my Wheaties this morning. I think the first thing people do is advocate for themselves. Speak up. So many of us are afraid to say something because there can be ramifications. There can be consequences to calling out BS. There can be consequences to calling out some of the systemic things that we see and know happen. But what I have found is that more people than not won't say a word to you once you stand up for yourself, because they know they're in the wrong.
Yeah.
So people will try to get away with as much as you allow them to get away with until you say, not today. And so I think for us and for the Black community, it's really on an individual level. You stand up for yourself first, and then you find others and y'all stand up together, because it's important. There's a strength and a resilience that has been bred within our souls, essentially, because of the adversities that we have faced. I think it's almost, we talk about generational curses. I think there's also generational strengths. And so I think when you stand on that strength and be like, no, what you just did was bogus, and I'm not cool with it. It empowers other people to say, you know what, I might say something too. And not everybody gonna show up to the party, and that's cool. Everybody doesn't have to, but just having the courage to stand for self first empowers a whole lot of other people to stand up for themselves too. So I think we can address some of the systemic things by just paying attention and calling it out.
Yeah. When you said that, it made me remember my youngest. He's 9, but when he was born, he was 3 months premature, and he was 1 pound 11 ounces at birth, and I was crushed. And the nurse said to me, she said, "You know what, Mr. Gentle, I shouldn't be telling you this, but the truth is, your son has a higher success rate of living because he's a young Black man." She said it goes young Black men, Black girls, Latin boys, Latin girls, Asian boys, Asian girls, white boys. They're at the bottom of the list. And the resiliency you just spoke of, and you said generational, it goes deeper than what we actually believe and think and even know, you know, and it is something that, it is a strength that we have, and then a strength that, you know, we need to harness so that we can continue to flourish, you know.
Definitely. There was a study that was done, I think it's called epigenetic coding, but there was a study that was done with mice where they would release the scent of like magnolia, and they would shock the mice. And they did it to one group, and then that group had babies. They did it to that group, and then there was a group that the next generation they didn't do it to. They didn't shock them, but regardless, when they smelled that scent, they got scared and they started to cower too. They had never been shocked in their life, but it was a fear that was handed down generationally, that when you smell that magnolia, there is pain that is associated with it. And so just like that, strength can also be passed down, that things may be against you, but you can persevere and you're going to get through this, and it's passed down generationally. I mean, that, at least that's what I believe.
I totally believe the same thing. The mind is a powerful thing. I mean, it's the most powerful computer that there is, you know. And so I truly believe you can manifest what you think or what you create, or, you know, if you think it, you can be it. I totally believe that.
Yeah.
How can allies best support your efforts in nourishing the Black community?
Oh, that's interesting. So I grew up in a really diverse family, and I have a lot of family members who I love and are near and dear to my heart that don't look anything like me. And their life and their existence is a much different existence than I. However, they show up on a regular basis without fail and without asking. And so, and I say without asking because I feel like if you really want to support and be an ally, don't ask me what like, how do I learn more? Just show up. If you stand here long enough and you see, then you'll understand what needs to be done. You'll understand what needs to be said. And so I appreciate my family members that are less melanated than I, because it's not like, oh, Anj, how can I best, what should I do to best support you? It's just, hey, I'm here. Let me know if you need me, but I'm here regardless. I ain't gonna say nothing. I'm just here to be with you. It's showing up for everything, for all the things, not just when there's a fight, when there's a celebration too. Showing up to just be there. If you're gonna be my ally throughout all of it. So for me, when it comes to allyship, I appreciate it. I encourage it, but I also recommend that people show up in a way that's going to be beneficial for the person they're trying to support or the group they're trying to support. Doesn't mean snatch the mic and step out and be, was it rough and the Temptations? Like, don't be that guy. We are a group, but just step back and see where you're needed. See what you can do, and sometimes it might be just shush for a minute and just be present.
Yeah. And that's even more powerful. Just shush and be present. That's even more powerful. What do you wish you had more of in your life?
Oh, freedom. That came out of my mouth too fast.
Okay.
Um, I, I don't know. I have a beautiful life. I'm blessed. It ain't perfect. It's a hot mess show sometimes. But just the freedom to do the things that I want to do. And whether it's financial freedom or just freedom of time, freedom of space, I would really like to just be free to kind of just see what's out here in the world. But momming and wifing and working and all that good stuff, and that kind of keeps us in these spaces and places. But one day, I am convinced that I'm gonna get out here in this world and just kick it and just enjoy freedom of living, freedom of life. Like, it's supposed to be kind of cool, right? Like the whole living thing.
Sometimes it doesn't seem like it though.
No. Oh, I'm like, this
My wife,
adulting thing is terrible.
my wife says, "Oh, being an adult sucks."
Man, they
Too
did
many
not put this in
responsibilities.
any manual.
Yeah. What advice would you give a young woman aspiring to make a difference in the Black community?
Stay strong, and know who you are. And that is not a easy thing to do because we're all growing and we're all evolving, but at least establishing a good sense of who you are at your core, because you're going to need it. You're going to need that strength. You're going to need, because people will tell you a whole lot of things about they think you are. And you have to have some, and it's not perfect. Like, there's been times I'm like, well, no, I know who I am. You're not going to tell me who I am. And so just being strong and figuring out who you are. What are your boundaries? I'm still working on boundaries. I'm about to be 44 years old, and I'm still working on building healthy boundaries. It's a work in progress all the time. So I think that's going to be key for anybody that's really trying to pour in, trying to nourish, trying to uplift. Your boundaries are going to be tested. Your identity is going to be tested. Your strength is going to be tested. So gear them all up. Like, make sure they're all good and solid.
Yeah, that's sage advice. That's it. I always hear about women and boundaries, women having to adjust their boundaries, women adjusting their boundaries, women not knowing what their boundaries are. But I rarely hear men saying anything about their boundaries. So it's something it's very interesting to me.
I mean, I speaking for myself, I'm a giver by nature. And I've had to learn that you can be a giver, but not everybody else is a giver. There are some people that are just takers. And so as a giver, you have to establish boundaries, because people will just siphon the energy from you if you don't cut it off at some point. And it doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you a person looking out for self, which is a good thing. So just know those boundaries. And like I said, I'm still a work in progress, like very much so. So as life goes on and you meet more people and you get into more spaces, this is a constant work of making sure you're good and making sure your force field is solid.
Yeah. You can't help someone if you are not healthy enough to help someone.
At all.
So true. How do you engage with different generations within the Black community?
Oh, I'm a struggle, because all I want to do is go home and lay on the couch. I mean, in my role at the police department, I'm around a lot of different groups. And so sometimes I'm working with interns or people from kids from the high school. But really, I think just being real and just being approachable and just being like authentic is the best way to engage with anyone. I can't keep up with all the stuff that the younger generations are doing. But if you out here doing your thing, I can applaud you. I can support you. I don't know what you just said, but I'm I think it's good, and I'm excited for you, and it's awesome. You mentioned Tasha earlier, so she's a good friend of mine, and so she coaches for FAM. So even I'm seeing these kids, and they have all their stuff and their tiki-takis, and I'm like, that's cool. I'm happy for you. Do your thing. I think like I'm an 80s kid. People didn't understand our generation. So it's like, as long as you're just there to support, I think that's kind of the baseline, and not so much lecture and what's this and that's weird and why do y'all do all of this. People ask the same thing about us in the 80s and 90s. Why are y'all doing this? And what? It's generational. Our parents didn't understand us. Their parents didn't understand them. It's just kind of how it goes. But if you're showing up for good, everybody understands that.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. It's funny you say that about the younger generation, because sometimes I've got to ask my son a whole lot of questions. Well, what does this mean? Does he really mean? What does that mean? What I think it means? And it's like sometimes you feel like the old man, but at the same time, I got to ask because I got a 9-year-old coming up behind him. So I got to know something that, the 18-year-old can educate me, even though I'm 51. You know what I mean? Like, we're never too old to learn.
No. We have I have 3 kids. One just turned 27, one is 20 and in college, and I have a 5-year-old. They're in all different stages of their life. I can't keep up with any of them. But the beauty is that the 27-year-old can sometimes explain to me what's going on or what may be going on in the 20-year-old's mind. Or even my son, he's the 27-year-old, will not correct me, but he will advise me when I'm dealing with the 5-year-old, like, okay, mom, like, I almost look at him as like a cheat code, right? Like I got someone who I have raised now saying, hey, just FYI, these are some things that you may want to consider or address as you're raising the younger one. And so that's kind of cool that they teach us. If we listen to our kids, they will teach us some stuff. Like, they know some things. They know a lot.
It is so true. I even learned things from the 9-year-old. So I know exactly what you're talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about. What does liberation look like for Black women?
Oh, a soft life. Like, in my head, we are all in a Golden Girls house with a pool, minding our business, having a good time, and just being authentically beautiful, bold, Black, full of ourselves. We don't live in a world that allows us to really be full of ourselves. It's like, oh, you're extra. That's too much. But we're dope. Like, we're just unapologetically dope, but we are forced to kind of keep it in this space. So for me, Black women being liberated is just not carrying anyone else's burdens, not fixing anyone else's problems, not having to worry about what our hair looks like, how we're showing up in spaces, and just being appreciated for all the goodness that we bring into the world. Like, yeah.
Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, let's stay connected.